We're almost at the finish line. These last 3 laws will finish up the 21 irrefutable laws. Now, after next week, the final week, we will use our last time together to put it all together and talk about how we move forward. I'm excited to see how this works out for you personally, for your careers, and for our church. I'm personally proud of how this group's been able to endure some hardship and still come out at the end. Way to go. So, let's jump right into law number 19, the law of timing. When to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. Now, if you remember, I've repeated the leadership test with the 4 questions. Am I doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, and for the right reason? You know, it's obvious that the second question pertains to timing. Is it the right time? Timing is often the difference between success and failure in any endeavor. In recent memory, nothing stands out more than when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast and flooded much of New Orleans. There are way too many failures to discuss, but the one that pertains to this failure of law number 19 was the failure of local leaders in New Orleans who waited too long to order an evacuation. The result? Thousands of citizens were trapped in the New Orleans Superdome. So how do we live out this law of timing? Every time a leader makes a move, there are 4 outcomes. Number 1, the wrong action at the wrong time leads to disaster. And just as I just mentioned before, the New Orleans mayor made a huge mistake in timing of the calling of that evacuation. Number 2, the right action and the wrong time at the wrong time brings resistance. Proper timing requires understanding, maturity, confidence, decisiveness, experience, and preparation. In my world, this has played out for the past month or so. Our executive director, the leader of our entire agency, wanted to make some changes, but the timing was way off and they failed to recognize those 6 factors. The result? Resistance. Number 3 is the wrong action at the right time is a mistake. How about doing a product launch in the summer for an item you want to sell at Christmas? Number 4 is the right action at the right time results in success. Winston Churchill said, "There comes a special moment in everyone's life, a moment for which that person was born, that special opportunity. When they seize it, they will fulfill their mission, a mission for which they were uniquely qualified. In that moment, they find greatness. It is their finest hour." This is a law that requires reflection. Think about a major action that you've taken in your own life and give it some special attention to timing. Write down a failure and write down a success. And when you look at the recent events at your workplace, which I'm still doing, was it the wrong action or wrong timing? And as you go about planning your future plans, use the list of 6 things that we need to consider before deciding when the right time is. When is the time to teach the law of timing? When someone says that their organization is lagging behind, or they claim that it takes followers too long to warm up to an idea, or they complain about changes and say the leader is always changing. When you have to make a decision, let me pass on 3 suggestions that from John Maxwell. He says, number 1, bring in a natural leader around you and share with them what you're trying to accomplish and ask them to help you. Look at the people that you're leading, and finally, study the times in which you're leading. Most decisions that fail because they're made too late. During a class, I'll give you an additional handout that gives you even further insight into making a timely decision. But for now, let's go on to law number 20, the law of explosive growth. To add growth, you lead followers, but to multiply, you lead leaders. When an organization, whether it be a company, a club, or even a church are lagging behind, it causes tension between where the group is and where they want to be. The answer is found in the law of explosive growth. Leaders are naturally impatient and they want to move fast. They want to see their vision fulfilled and they delight in progress. So, how do you relieve that tension between where the organization is and where you want it to be? Well, if you develop yourself, you can experience personal growth. If you develop your team, your organization can experience growth. But if you develop leaders, your organization can experience explosive growth. Being a leader is one thing. Becoming a leader who develops leaders is a completely different mindset. You see, we spent the last 9 weeks talking about how to improve our own leadership skills. Now this week, we're talking about helping everyone around you improve and help you to train up other leaders. Now, how can you tell the difference between the type of leader? Well, leaders who attract followers need to be needed. Leaders who develop leaders want to be succeeded. Leaders who attract followers develop the bottom 20%, while leaders who develop leaders develop the top 20%. As you can see from the sheets, we could go on, but the difference is that those who lead followers and those who lead leaders are very different. When leading others to the law of explosive growth, we have to ask, why doesn't everyone develop leaders? John lists 3. Leaders are hard to find. They're hard to gather, and they're hard to keep. Don't get good enough to just achieve personal gratification. Get good enough to develop those leaders who will then impact other leaders, and then watch your influence grow far beyond your expectation. Leaders invest with the right people. So how do we teach this law? When you hear someone complain about how their load has grown since their organization began to grow, or they say they have little time to spend with key people, or finally they say they have several good people, but they're not sure they can lead. That is a cue to teach this law. The final law number 21, is about the law of legacy, which says a leader's lasting value is measured by succession. John Maxwell is the picture of this law. He could have very easily just wrote some great books, which he did, and just left it at that. But he chose to teach leaders how to teach other leaders, and so his legacy will live on for years after he does. He gives us 4 disciplines to develop your leadership legacy. He says, know your legacy you want to leave. Write out what you want people to say about you when you're gone, and then live out the legacy that you want to leave. Choose who will carry on your legacy, and finally, make sure you pass the baton. When to lead others to this law? When they say they're afraid of training themselves out of a job, or they think they're stuck in a position and no one else can do what they do. I want to end this video with a huge thank you. I've been truly honored and humbled that you spent the last 9 weeks with me. And this Wednesday, when we finish up week 10 with this final discussion, I just want you to know that how happy I am that we've been able to do this together. Then finally on week 11, we're going to again put it all together and see if anyone has learned anything. I look forward to us being together next Wednesday.